Welcome to Facebook Live with BlueIQ. I am your host, Dr. Cory Frogley. We are so excited to be here today with Darren. Darren has been a buddy of mine now for a couple years and has just been a phenomenal dental coach. He is the CEO and founder of Accelerate My Practice, and really has been working in the dental profession since 1997 and has been helping well over 1,000 dental offices across the country. And the reason why his expertise is so good is because Darren doesn't just understand the business side of dentistry, right? He actually got his BS in biology and chemistry and then went on to get his MBA in marketing and finance. And then Accelerate My Practice was born, and the dental coaching company that's just been blowing it up for doctors and helping them really achieve their dreams. And it's because he doesn't just care about your numbers. I mean, that's important, and he watches those and he helps you dial those in, but he cares about the people in the practice and your connections with your family and your personal lives, with your patients. Those are the key things, and I really think that's why Darren's success has been pretty incredible. So Darren, welcome to the show. I am honored to have you with us today.
Well, the honor's mine for sure, and it's been great to watch this evolution for you take place and see how your business has evolved and continuing to evolve, and how many lives you're touching. And all we are really is an extension of what BlueIQ is. BlueIQ is it shows you the opportunities in your practice, but the how-to is the million-dollar question everybody wants to know. And I think that's where we do well, and I think that's where NLP plays a big role in it. It's great to know the challenge, but if you can't solve it, all you do is have awareness.
Amen to that. And that's the IQ side of Blue, and that's why it's just been a pleasure working with Darren. And I'm going to bring up your presentation, and you mentioned those pieces, NLP, and not everybody has an understanding of what that is. Can you just introduce the topic and a little bit about why this is such an important kind of topic to you?
Well, the reason why I'm excited about it is because it is the how-to, if you will, relative to whatever it is you want to change in your life. And it came to me, quite frankly, through the crucible of life being brought upon me when my wife and I ran into this marital disaster and we needed to reinvent our marriage. So when I first found NLP, it had nothing to do with dentistry. It was a very personal problem I was trying to solve, and how I could rebuild our marriage, or how my wife and I could rebuild our marriage. And so NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which, if I really oversimplify it, think of Pavlov's dogs. Pavlov's dogs, if you remember that metaphor from back in the school days, is if you give a dog food and you ring a bell, and you give a dog food and you ring a bell, and you give a dog food and you ring a bell, there becomes this association with the bell and food, such that now when you just ring the bell, the dog will salivate. You conditioned the brain to associate those things together, so it didn't any longer have to be tied together to get the same outcome. Right. And NLP is that same thing. How can you condition the brain or train the brain such that when you are wanting to change something in your life, it interprets it differently, right? So the dog interpreted the dinging of the bell with food's coming and thus salivated. And obviously there's no language patterns for dogs. There's just a sound association. And so we're doing the same thing in dentistry relative to our interaction with patients, our interaction with our teammates in our offices, and thus it gives us the ability to create lasting change. Because one of the challenges I find in dental consulting, and any consulting really in general, is that I believe most offer a one-part solution to a three-part problem. And it's not that the consultants are doing bad work, they're doing great work. But if you can't change the psychology of the brain to create sustainable results, what you end up happening is getting a bump in behavior, but nothing that stays long-term. And so what we're trying to do is rewire the brain to create more of a long-term impact out of the employees in the office, and thus, through extension of them, the patients in the office. So a quick example would be, how do you get a patient to accept treatment in lieu of insurance? Because a lot of times patients are sitting there thinking, hey, does my insurance cover it? It's the first question that's usually brought up whenever we give a diagnosis to a patient, regardless of whether it's dentistry or chiro or even just general medicine. Does my insurance cover it? We became conditioned to ask that question. And so the challenge there becomes that the brain, the patient is thinking, if my insurance doesn't cover it, maybe I don't need it or I shouldn't do it. And that's a very foolish, short-sighted approach, because your insurance is not necessarily concerned about your health as much as they are their bottom line. But for whatever reason, the patient believes that the insurance has their best interest in mind. And it couldn't be any further from the truth, sadly. Yeah. Truly, if you think of what the insurance company is about, they're about decreasing costs and improving profitability to their shareholders. But they've done a great spin campaign to the patient to make it different. So now when a provider, like you as an example, sit down with a patient, you start talking about what it is the patient needs, and they come up with this association of, does my insurance cover it? We need to have a way to change that paradigm to where the patient goes, oh, I should maybe do this in lieu of it. Because my iPhone is running really slow. I think I'm becoming a conspiracy theorist that every 2 years, Apple puts a little bug in my iPhone so I get a new one. Now, I'm going to go buy the new iPhone 10 at $1,100, $1,200, $1,400. Ironically, kind of about the cost of a crown. And yet, I don't ask Apple if my insurance will cover it. I just give them money and I get it because I want it. And that, speaking of NLP, it's neuro-linguistic. Want is a very key word there. Because patients don't always want dentistry until they're told they have to have it. And most providers come in and say, you need this. Well, my mom told me for years what I needed to do differently in my marriage, and God rest her soul, if I had taken her advice, my wife and I wouldn't have driven our marriage off a cliff. But she said I needed to do this, and we don't do what we need, we do what we want. Yep. So the question becomes, how can we change the association so dentistry becomes a want for the patient? Because then insurance doesn't matter. It makes sense?
I love that. No, it makes total sense. And that ability to communicate and have that power to change behavior is what you're teaching today. And to give that to our physicians and to give that to their team is a gift that is powerful.
Well, it's a gift that gives not only to the patient, but it gives to the whole team. It gives to people's personal lives. Because I became a believer that most employees, I believe, not just in dentistry, just employees in any job anywhere in the country, most people, I think, are very distracted on a daily basis. We're distracted by our pending divorce. We're distracted by a health problem. We're distracted by our kid who's in detention tomorrow. We're distracted by a fight with a coworker. We become very distracted such that we only give some small percentage of our brain to the task we're supposed to be doing because of distraction. So what I decided and found years ago was if I could help people become more focused by minimizing the distraction, by creating health in different areas of their life, how much more effective would they be? The metaphor I use for that often is distracted driving. I'm driving down the road. I'm listening to music. I'm texting. I'm talking to my kids in the back seat. All this is a bad idea, by the way. And I'm doing all these things. And as a result, some percentage of the time, I crash and I get hurt. And maybe I hurt others. Maybe I hurt my children. And so, of course, it's a very easy metaphor of we shouldn't do distracted driving, but we do distracted living all the time. And then all of a sudden we wake up one day and we're like, oh, my kid's 18, he's 25, where did he go? I missed his whole childhood. Well, shame on me. Distracted living's not good. Distracted working, also not good because I'm thinking about these other things. So if I figured if I could help people create more health, overall health in their life, they'd be more productive employees for the office.
And can I just reemphasize that coming from an employer, that the gift each team member listening today can give back to their boss or their manager is that it's their complete attention while they're in the office, contributing to the vision of the office.
And it's not based in selfishness, because if the employer, the doctor who hires us as an example, can help bring this to their team to make their team healthier. The greatest compliment I get nice compliments of, hey, my practice grew $300,000 this year. And I'm like, that's awesome. But the even better compliment I get is when I get an email from a team member in an office saying, hey, I lost 50 pounds. My marriage, I put my marriage back together. I quit smoking. I quit drinking. I changed my finances of my personal life. And then as a result, because of that decreased stress in that other area of their life, they are more productive. What a gift to give to every one of your teammates in your office, your employees. And again, shift in words, right? Not employees, but teammates.
Teammates. And that's where, again, Darren, I think your programs are so powerful because you're engaged, right? You care so deeply about the individual and the team, those team individuals. And that's, you're not coming in to make them a better practice. You're coming in to make them better people. And the byproduct of that is a better
metrics. It all leads to better metrics. It has to, because sadly we're an economically driven world. And whether I would love everybody to be able to do dentistry or whatever their profession is for free just because they want to. And at some point, if your economics are so good, you can. If you are not working for a paycheck, but rather working for a cause, you can do that. But until you get there, you have to work for a paycheck. And the reality is we all have businesses. We all have to make payroll. We all have to make rent. We have to pay our suppliers. So there has to be a metric involved in this. I don't want to sound like too much of a goody two-shoe. I'm just trying to make everybody feel good, because what we do is not only make them feel good, but then we give them a roadmap to change these things. Because and the challenge, though, relative to the roadmap is oftentimes we don't have clarity. I meet with doctors all the time, and I'm like, what do you want in your business? And they're like, I want more business. That's a vague, ambiguous thing. You can't be subjective. You've got to have reality. So I always say, hey, if you were coming to see me in Colorado, do you think you'd find me? And at first they're usually like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, how are you going to find me in Colorado? It's a really big state. Now, if you're so specific in your GPS that you put in 509 Scott Avenue, Suite 2C, I think you'll find me. But now relative to your business, you just said you want to do more. Relative to your relationship, you said you want to just improve it. Relative to your weight loss, you said you just want to lose weight. You don't have a destination in mind. If you don't have a destination where you can't have a map to get you there, it won't happen. So a big piece of what we're all about is not only helping you feel better, but we've got to create a roadmap. What is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? What are the steps? And how can you take them, and in what order? And I love using baking as a metaphor, and I'm terrible when it comes to baking. But do the order with which you put the ingredients together matter? Does the amount of the ingredients matter? Yeah. Does the temperature of the oven matter? Does the time you bake it matter? All of these things matter very, very highly. But yet, when it comes to our business, oftentimes we're like, oh, we'll just throw some stuff together. I was talking to this doctor in, where was it? I think it was LA last week. And he's like, I just need more new patients. And I said, really? You think so? He goes, yeah, I just need more new patients. I find on the months where I have more new patients, I do better. Well, with all due respect, this is where NLP comes in, right? It's about some shock value to rewire the brain. I said, well, with all due respect, we can just keep throwing crap at the wall and see what sticks. And in your case, you're just throwing stuff called new patients at the wall to see what sticks, rather than having a very laser-focused approach to see what will get you there. But he's got this story in his brain of all he needs is new patients. Well, if you can't convert a new patient to a patient who accepts treatment and a patient who pays the bill, what did you get for that new patient? A whole lot of new patient exams. And if you did them all at $19.95 for a new patient exam because you were trying to be competitive with the marketplace, you just made $20. I don't think you went to dental school and incurred $500,000 in debt to make $20 for an hour-long appointment.
Right.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I find that we've. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I've got the step 1 up on this. I love it. I love the direction, and let's go through these steps now of how to really make these changes in the practice.
Well, the first and most important step is to know the outcome you want. What is it you want to accomplish? And in a measurable, smart goal, we've all heard this sort of speech, right? We got to have a measurable, smart goal, attainable, blah, 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 whatever it is. And oftentimes I'm telling people to dream bigger than what they usually are, because I believe in dreaming big. We can all improve 2%. Great, I can grow my practice 10%, 2%, 5%. That's easy. Why not dream big and grow 50? It's shocking how many of our clients hire us and literally they grow 50% revenue. So first and foremost is we need to have the outcome in mind that we want to accomplish. And the story we tell ourselves that we can or cannot accomplish it often holds us back, right? Well, I don't know anyone who's grown 50%, so that must not be possible. Well, maybe. I know people who grow 50%. I know a lot of people. I know people who grow 50% who don't even hire me. They're just growing 50% because they understand how this stuff works. So first and foremost is we need to have a destination in mind. Secondly is then we need to reframe how we think about it. And so the way I always do that is, why do you want to accomplish that? Tell me what about that outcome would fire you up. I believe people change in their lives for one of two reasons. And I don't care what it is. It can be shopping for a new present. It could be shopping for dentistry. It could be deciding to hire BlueIQ. We change for one of two reasons: to avoid pain or gain pleasure. So, and a lot of people are driven by one of the two, and usually people have one of the two that's stronger. So let's use BlueIQ as an example. They might be coming to you because they want to avoid the pain of not seeing success, and they don't understand why they're not seeing it, so they want the metrics to understand it. That's cool. And some people are driven by pleasure, right? I want the benefit of this thing versus the stick that's beating me. Cosmetic dentistry, great example. You know, I always use the example of what are the two easiest cases in dentistry to get accepted. And the first one is the patient who comes in pain and their face is swollen and it hurts. The second one is the patient who's coming in looking for the $30,000 cosmetic makeover because they want the pleasure of looking different. The hardest case is the patient who doesn't even know they need dentistry. So how can we reframe that relative to changing those things? And relative to our own goals as business owners or changing life with weight loss or smoking cessation or whatever it is, what is the why that drives me? I love Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. What is the why that's going to drive me that is so compelling that when I'm in the midst of this change, which is hard, I will have the intestinal fortitude to get through it? So I always have people write out, what's the thing I want? What's the why I want it? And this has got to be a very compelling list, like bring you to tears sort of compelling list. Because making change in your business is not easy. Making change in your life if you're a smoker is not easy. Making change in your marriage if it's been dysfunctional for years is not easy. And if you don't have compelling reasons to get through the hard parts of this process, you won't do it. So you've got to reframe this process to understand what it is that you are going to do. And then we've got to find what are the techniques then to do it. What are the techniques we're going to take? To the steps, if you will, the baking instructions. Mm-hmm. And now, if we have compelling reasons, we can do this. And there's tons and tons of techniques. And when you have the compelling reason why, the how-to manual becomes very easy. The how-to manual is difficult if you don't have compelling reasons to why. But as an example, if your kid just got hit by a car and is laying underneath the car, will you find a way to get your kid off the car, out from under the car?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We've all heard the story of the 70-year-old grandma who lifted the car up off of the little kid. When we have compelling reasons why, the how-to is very, very easy. But the challenge is most people don't have compelling enough reasons. I'd like to have a more successful practice. I'd like to lose weight. It's the greatest conundrum in human experience, which is knowing what you want, but realizing it's just this much easier not to. So if we can have those compelling reasons, now we can use these techniques to change things. So relative to patients, one very easy technique you can go home with today is you can mirror whoever it is you're talking to. So if I'm talking to you and you talk very slow and I talk very fast like I am today, I might come across as pushy and aggressive. And so I need to slow my tone down to match whoever I'm across from. I need to decrease my intensity. Even if this is who I naturally am, I need to decrease my intensity so I can match you so you feel comfortable. But if by contrast, I'm talking to someone who talks very fast like me, I should match that so they feel comfortable. We like to be around people like us. So if you want one very, very easy, actionable item, mirror and match the person across from you. And you'll find that it increases their comfort and security in the conversation because we all want to be around people like us. And then we feel like we're friends. And I'm not even over-caffeinated.
Yeah, this is Darren, and I'll testify of that. This is a great role play, wouldn't you agree, for the office manager and the case presenters and the hygiene team? I mean, this is what a great opportunity to sit down knee to knee and have the person role playing change, their tone, and have the person that's training with you practice that and match that. Be super aware of that.
Have to. And it's a skill that we have to develop. It's not natural in us because we want to be the way we are normally. So I think as a presenter, my gift is that I can come in real fast, talk really fast like I was in the last 10 minutes because I'm thinking I have about 3 hours of content I need to do in 15 minutes here. But then when I need to, I can come in and I can slow it down and I can have that compassionate conversation because we need to. That's where the connection really takes place. And when that connection takes place, that's when patients accept treatment.
I like that. One of the reasons why we've developed BlueIQ is so that each team member is super aware of their why. Like, why are they a part of the practice? Like, you could work anywhere. There's plenty of places you can get a job and pay your bills. But when you become part of a team who understands this kind of stuff, and I know a lot of people, they learn this stuff and they're like, well, that's too salesy. Like, people are going to recognize that. They're going to think that I'm using sales techniques. But coming from a guy who has done this and very aware of this, it's that intention of the team member understanding their why and having the skills to produce it, to help that patient through the decision-making process. It's not like we're trying to sell them a new car. We're trying to sell them something that they do want and
we're trying to
sell
them. We're trying to sell them ideal health. Why we wouldn't scream that from the rooftop? Proud. I'm so proud that I sell ideal health versus under a car. Right? I mean, I don't know if undercoating under a car is good, bad, or otherwise. No opinion on the matter. You're selling ideal health to your patients. That's why we all went into the healthcare field. We should reframe that.
Yep. No, I love that, and that's why I like your slide. This understanding science, understanding communication, and that's what connects people. That's what builds rapport. And that drives more new patients. That drives more case acceptance. That drives more procedures. That drives more collections.
It drives more ability. If the business makes more and is more profitable, it gives us the ability to give back. Make more money is fine and dandy. Now, if you donate it to your church, if you donate it to charity, if you donate your time, if you have more abundance, you have the ability to give more to other people. And so I love creating abundance for people, not for greediness and not for selfishness. We can give back because that's really what it's about.
Well, and isn't that part of discovering the why, right?
Yeah, I think so. And so many times we've lost our why as to why we went to dental school, hygiene school, whatever it is, whatever your profession is. Having our why we get up and do what we do every single day will make it not work. It'll make it fun. It'll make it exciting. It'll make it something where you come in and you have this much energy every single day. And I love the fact I don't have to be twisted in the brain with caffeine or alcohol or cocaine or anything like that to be like this. I love life. I love changing people's lives and seeing long-lasting change for people. And it fires me up. And that's what it's all about to me, is how can we use tools like NLP, like BlueIQ, like Accelerate My Practice? How can we use those tools to create lasting change in those around us, whether it's our friends, our family, or our patients, or our coworkers? Because that's really all we want to do.
Love it. And so for our audience today, that's really what today's discussion's about, is that finding tools like NLP that can create long-lasting behavioral change. And when you identify your why and you put these tools to work, that's fulfillment. That's why Darren is the way he is, because he's found it. He's nailed it.
The greatest travesty in life is to be successful and unfulfilled. And the best example, that's Robin Williams, a man who set out to make the whole world laugh, and he did. I mean, I don't know if the whole world, but certainly anybody who's ever seen a Robin Williams movie laughed hysterically, and it brought warmness to our heart, but yet he was so unfulfilled, he committed suicide. So fulfillment is the ultimate goal, in my opinion. And If you can do that, you'll never work a day in your life. So, I would love to make that offer to anybody who wants. You can go to acceleratemypractice.com. We have a whole lot of information there. Get started today is a link you can go to. We have another one of Accelerate My Practice /offers. There's a lot of different ways that we can do an evaluation for you and show you where there's opportunities within your practice. And if you would like that, we'll do an absolute no obligation evaluation of your practice. It's complimentary because of BlueIQ's investment in everybody that they love and want to help. And we will gladly do an evaluation of any practice that wants one.
Cool. And guys, take Darren up on that. He has the most giving, most incredible team. It'll change the way you truly do walk into your practice. So, Darren Kaberna, thank you so much for joining us today. You're an absolute stud. Appreciate you making the time for us, and we will be back on soon with Darren. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure for sure. Thank you so much.